I'm Amy Goodman. We're talking today with two men. Juan Cole, professor of history, University of Michigan, who runs the Informed Comment blog, and Glenn Carle, who is a former officer at the CIA, served 23 years in the clandestine services of the Central Intelligence Agency. In fact, was official title was Deputy National Intelligence Officer for Transnational Threats, and he's in Washington, D.C. Glenn Carle, asked by a superior to investigate Juan Cole, who is against the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and Glenn Carle refused. I wanted to ask about the Executive Order 12333, Glenn Carle, the significance of it.
Yes, well, I can't quote it verbatim, but it is
the gist of it.
The founding document almost for a CIA officer of any part of the CIA. When we take our oath and receive our initial training, it is the central guiding document for the CIA functions. And it was written after the Pike and Church committees in the late 1970s, which investigated abuses in the CIA where they did things professionally against or toward on American citizens. And the relevant part for our discussion is that it forbids the CIA to conduct any sort of professional activity, to have anything to do at all with an American person. And I say person because that includes individuals, human beings, and entities, including companies or organizations. It's illegal. And everyone in the CIA knows this, and everyone takes it very seriously. The CIA is extremely careful, as an institution and its officers, to follow our legal obligations, and you just would not do it.
Juan Cole, what about this? I mean, the CIA spying on Americans here at home. You.
Well, the account that Mr. Carle gives doesn't actually reassure me, as he said, that it was the White House was only asking for publicly known information about me. It seems to me that it's very unlikely that the White House would go to the CIA and ask just for publicly known information. Why would they do that? They could Google me. I think that the likelihood is that. Well, could I just finish and then sure? But it seems the likelihood is that they were asking somebody over there to see what they could dig up of a private nature that maybe wasn't publicly known. And the second incident that Mr. Carle ran into, where an analyst had been tasked with this, was somebody who did not know me and seemed a little puzzled as to how exactly he would carry this out from what you said. So I understand the legal distinction you're trying to make, and I respect that you're loyal to the institution, you want to protect it, but there are implications in some of the things that you said that at least raise some doubts in my mind as to whether they weren't actually asking people to dig.
Glenn Carle.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry to have interrupted for a moment. On the whole, Professor Cole and I are in agreement. The distinction I make is it wasn't publicly known information that was requested. It was information that officers knew of a personal nature about Professor Cole, which is much more disturbing. There was no direct request that I'm aware, in the two instances of which I have knowledge, for the officers actively to seek and obtain, to conduct, for me to go out and follow Professor Cole. But if I knew lifestyle questions or so on, to pass those along. That's how which is totally unacceptable, and more than unacceptable, it's illegal, as EO 12333 makes clear.
And Glenn Carle, you worked years ago under Joe Wilson, is that right? Joe Wilson, who then,
I did.
Soon after this, was involved in the whole scandal around his wife, Valerie Plame, being exposed as a CIA operative, and you worked with Valerie Plame in the CIA.
Yes, well, this is one of the things that caused me to feel almost an electric shock when the whole Professor Cole issue came up, because of all the ironies. You could argue my first boss at the very beginning of my career was Joe Wilson, and we were good friends, and I have great regard for him and know him to be a man of integrity and principle and professional competence. And then years later, I actually was an office mate and a colleague with Valerie Plame. I knew each of them respectively years before they met each other. When jumping ahead to 2005, say, many years after my professional and personal interactions with Joe Wilson and Valerie Plame, the request for Professor Cole issue came up. It was just even more personally electrifying for me, since the whole polemic that had seized the nation and the campaign on the Wilson-Plame scandal had personal resonance for me, as well as professional resonance because of my obligations as a CIA officer. So it was triply shocking.